I'm just fixing my hat. For whatever reason, my hat likes to what the hell was that? Where did that even come from? Piece of paper? All right. Again, somebody's trying to get my attention. This shit always happens to me, always. Like, I'll try to be doing something for a case or a video, and then boom, something falls on me. Welcome to Freaked Out with your psychic medium host, Liz. I gotta tell you guys, I did not think I would be back this soon doing another dump, especially when it comes to the new government officials. Technically, this one isn't a government official, but for whatever reason he thinks he is. I do have to be very careful on what I say, so we are renaming this person, and if you don't know who I'm referencing, look it up. I found so many funny nicknames to go with and some inappropriate ones as well, and I figured that Space Karen was probably the best option. Now, this video is going to be public. I'm allowing this one to be public because I'm not afraid of this guy like I am Felon 47. So for me, I'm okay with sharing it publicly, but if I get a lot of bullshit, I am switching it over to the exclusive. So if you see it 1 minute and then you don't the next, you know why. Alongside of many egotistical men that are currently overpopulating our world, I feel like we're all sitting like in the middle of a landfill, and I just don't want to touch anything, you know? The way the world is going and the craziness that's happening is just unreal. But I figured we were going to start from the very beginning. Now, this is going to be my first of 2 or 3. So just know that we're not covering everything on this video because there's quite a bit. So make sure to like this video, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I also wanted to let you guys know that yes, the real life Squid Games is still coming. I'm still currently working on Liam Payne, and I'm also working on Luigi's episode as well. So those 3, fingers crossed, will be dropped next week. That's the goal. I really need your help, guys. So if you can make sure to like or share this video, that would be greatly appreciated. Remember, share it with people that you know would like this information, not necessarily not like this information, because I don't want to block people. All right, let's start talking about Space Karen. Now, Space Karen was actually born June 28th, 1971, and he was actually born in South Africa. His mother, which I found hilarious, is actually Canadian. And she's a model, a Canadian model, which gives me the icks because, like, I mean, you know, he's half Canadian. Say what? You'd think he would be a lot nicer than he is. And poor thing had no idea that she would be birthing one of the most egotistical men. I also believe that, like, his family gave him this God complex and told him he was like perfect every single day. And I think he still believes it to this day. When it comes to his father was actually from South Africa. He was actually an engineer. And from what I can see, he was pretty intelligent. He did lack consideration for other women, but you know, that was the time. He really believed that women should only be in a kitchen barefoot and cooking. I'm thinking that this is where Space Karen got his demeanor from when it comes to the opposite sex. Now, ironically enough, I do believe that his dad was rather intelligent. Now, did he use his brain entirely? No. I keep seeing like mathematical equations and just possibly even being a genius. I see that this man pushed Space Karen so hard, and I believe that Space Karen was informed by Dad that if he did not accomplish the highest of the highest, that would prove that he was basically a piece of shit. Now, when it comes to Space Karen and what they were interested in when they were young, they were interested in technology, and according to sources, they actually taught themselves how to use a computer. And took it even further and created a video game called Blaster at the age of 12, which is pretty impressive. But let's talk about this situation, shall we? I know it sounds really impressive. And I know it's great that he accomplished that, but I also believe that he had large quantities of money to do this. I think that really anyone who had the equipment and the money to do something like this would have. Now, what I see in the background of this is another young boy, which I believe could have been maybe 14 or 15. Either way, I see that this young boy helped him out a lot and gave this kid zero credit in making Blaster. But if you think about it, it was most likely his first time that he screwed somebody over and put his name on something that didn't technically belong to him. I feel like this was the moment that Space Karen realized, I'm going to take advantage of people. Why not? Work smarter, not harder. Now, the other kid that didn't have, the money or the know-how to get everything all sorted out was left out of all of this. I feel like he was poor. And I think that kid to this day still wishes that Space Karen had actually acknowledged him through this. But he didn't. In fact, I feel like Space Karen just shut him out after that. Now, Space Karen thinks that they are incredibly smart. But in reality, he just steals people's shit. Now, in 1989, and I'm sorry to say this, Canada, but Space Karen actually moved to Canada at that point and obtained citizenship through his mother. He even attended Queen's University before transferring over to Pennsylvania. Now, for me, I was born in 83 and I grew up in Toronto. I was there until I was approximately between 8 and 10. We were in the same vicinity. Talk about gross. It definitely would have been a better decision if his mom decided to swallow. Now, in 1995, he actually ended up relocating to California, and he was there to pursue a PhD. But he ended up leaving the program to embark on his entrepreneurial journey. I'll explain what happened. While he was in Canada, he was trying to muster up a posse to assist him when it came to his schooling. And I see that he even paid people off to help him study or do tests for him. I even feel like somebody would go in and pretend to be him to do tests for him. He would also pay people to do his homework too. Now, once he got to California, he realized that he couldn't really manipulate anyone else to do this. There were people there, but they were also trying to obtain their own PhD. So he lost control of that. And I don't think he dropped out because he wanted to pursue his entrepreneurial skills. I think he dropped out because he couldn't handle it. Now, with that being said, he also is very full of himself, ego-wise, handsome-wise. I am all for someone who's confident, but he is cocky. He feels like he deserves the absolute best when it comes to the opposite sex. And if women rejected him, God forbid, they became like mortal enemy number one. No offense to Space Karen, but not everyone's going to acquire your taste. We all have our own different preferences. But from what I can see, he continued to get attention from females because he talked about how big his wallet was. And he would take some of his money from his own wallet and put it in others. He really learned at a very young age that he can manipulate women very easily by just throwing money at them. And you know what? He never found a woman who would just willingly accept him for who he was. So basically, he had to pay to have girlfriends. Now, Space Karen got lucky and ended up co-founding an online company that was like a newspaper with maps, very similar to like MapQuest and Google. I will give it to Space Karen for this one. It was definitely a good investment. I do see that he really bought his way through and didn't really provide the company itself with any sort of help. I feel like it was more so financial, and I also see that he took credit for just about anything he could, but in reality, it was all his workers. He just signed the checks, and that's all he really did. Oh wait, I am wrong. There were a couple of things that he did do, like harassing female employees. He would try to get the female employees to sleep with him. He would hire them based upon the fact that they may sleep with him. He would fire women if they didn't give in to him. And then he and the guys would sit there and have very, very, very inappropriate conversations about their coworkers, even doing a rating system. Yuck. Don't worry, guys. All of these details, all of these predictions will eventually come out. But if I'm going to be honest, many people are scared to come out and say anything because they feel like it's a losing battle. They don't want the backlash, which I understand. After a while, he ended up co-founding X.com, which was an online company that was later turned into PayPal. And again, I don't really think he did much other than invest. Now, eBay eventually purchased PayPal in 2002. From what I can see, people associated with PayPal were very irritated by him and were incredibly grateful once their relationship was done. And I ultimately think that was the bigger reason as to why he left it behind. He doesn't like to swim in his pools too long because he feels like, oh shit, there's more people going to accuse me of this, that, and the other. But the paycheck was nice, so they dealt with it. But ultimately, they did want to rid themselves of Space Karen. Now, in 2002, Space Karen also founded SpaceX and aimed to revolutionize space technology and reduce space transportation costs. And I do believe that even with a young Space Karen, which is why I call them Space Karen, is because they had this love for space and aliens and outer space and wanting to live there and still have that passion to this day. I think he should spend more time focusing on that, if you ask me. Maybe he'll get somewhere with it. And ironically enough, he wants to connect to alien forces. But if I'm being totally honest, the alien life forms up there have zero interest in him. In fact, they're grossed out by him. And I think he has had some interactions with some aliens in the past, but I'm not exactly sure what, where, how, when yet. But when I know the information, I will bring it forward. Also, at that time, he got involved with Tesla. I don't really care about his accomplishments because every single thing was stolen from someone else. Have you ever worked in an environment where your employees or your boss like to take credit for your work? I have. This is exactly what happened here. He would basically throw these people 30 to 50 pages of a contract that he would get set up with his lawyer. And then the documents basically said, I own everything you say. And of course, no one would go against him because all of his documents, his lawyers, everything was ironclad. So they couldn't really do much if they wanted to continue to keep working. Now, let's start talking about some legal issues with him. Now, throughout Space Karen's career, he actually dealt with a lot of people stepping forward, charging him for sexual harassment. And these are just the ones that came up. There are many, many more. He has also been involved in many defamation cases and numerous lawsuits in relation to his own company operations. Now, that is not at all shocking to me. Now, if you guys weren't shocked about that one, he literally cares about nothing and no one other than himself. Someone actually recently asked me, who has a bigger heart? Who's the kinder of the two between Felon 47 and Space Karen? And as difficult as this question was to answer, I'll have to go with Felon 47. Although Felon 47, and the only reason that Felon 47 leads in that is because he's a people pleaser. And there are people that he genuinely cares about. Maybe his family? I don't know. But with that being said, they're still both equally evil. And on a scale of who's more evil, that would be Space Karen. Now, in 2016, a SpaceX flight attendant accused Space Karen of exposing himself. And if that wasn't bad enough, propositioning her for sex. Because I can see it now. The look on her face was not one of, yay. It was more like, but he continued on. You know what I mean? He is so secure in himself that he was just like, you know what? I'm going to whip it out. That this was not an isolated incident. He felt that comfortable to do that to her. Imagine how many people he had done that to in the past. He finds it sexy and he thinks women find it sexy too. No, most of us don't even like that thing. The images I'm getting from this particular situation is so damn disturbing. And honestly, she did not share everything, because if she did, he would have looked real bad. I'm even thinking that there might have even been footage, which is why he settled. And I'm going to say that at the beginning of the conversation, when she was, helping him, he was gloating about his career and being like, oh, don't you think I'm so amazing? She wasn't giving him any vibes. In fact, I feel like he was making her uncomfortable the entire time, making these little subtle comments. And if her fuck off vibe wasn't subtle enough for him, I don't know what would have been. Now, he ended up paying her $250,000 as part of a service agreement to settle. Honestly, I don't even feel like she wanted to take the money. I believed her lawyer advised her otherwise. I also believe she could have actually scored a lot more money from him. There was also some threats and blackmail in the background. I think he was trying to say something like he was going to expose her past. I don't think her past was bad, but it certainly wouldn't reflect well on that case. But don't worry, girl, you are not alone. There will be more people that continue to keep stepping forward in relation to him. I even feel like this particular woman is going to step up and talk about her experiences a little bit more. In June 2024, so basically 8 months ago, another SpaceX employee filed a lawsuit against him and the company, and they alleged sexual harassment and also retaliation. Now, the lawsuit actually claimed that Space Karen had sexual relationships with female employees, shocking, including a former intern. I can only imagine how old she was. He then later hired her on as an executive. I feel like he says things like, I like giving women opportunities, but just know your role. And if you ever come looking for favors, you know what you gotta do. I'm just thinking about my own experience. I have also been a woman who has had a man that I went to high school with just expose himself to me. We were not even hanging out. He just so happened to live on the street that I was hanging out with my friend on. I was in her car waiting for her to come back in it. I think she had to go to the washroom, and he just pulled it out. My facial expression was that of, and he didn't care. But that's the mentality. That's how men think. I did not set charges on him. I was a teenager and dumb. Now, when it comes to this particular lawsuit, of course, Space Karen has denied the allegations, shocker, labeling them false and politically motivated. Oh, good sir, you are not a politician. I am quite literally confused by your statement. Anything to make them seem like people are trying to get to them. What happened in 2016? What happened beforehand? Not politically motivated. Why did you pay the lady off? You're a wannabe politician. And to be honest, you don't even really want to be a politician. You just want to do and be like the ruler of the world. I think he really took that show Pinky and the Brain to a whole next level. In his mind, he believes by hanging out with Felon 47 and Felon 47's friends that he's going to eventually become the president. In fact, I think he feels like he's going to be Felon 48. That's what his mindset's at. Now, when it comes to more women stepping forward, I believe there will be about 15 to 20 more women. We just need a few of them to come in, kind of like the way things happened with Diddy, one after another after another. There's going to be a woman of somewhat of celebrity status. I'm thinking more of a model that's going to step forward first. I don't believe she's going to be from the US. I think she's going to be an international model. And I feel like she's going to express what happened first. He is going to come at her hard. but we all know it's bullshit. Now, let's talk about the AI stuff and the brain chip stuff, because this is pretty important too. So for those of you who do not know, SpaceX are working pretty heavy in, AI ventures and artificial intelligence. Again, something he's continuing to take credit for. Even the chip that he is technically implanting in people's brains, it's not even his original idea, but again, he likes to take credit. Now let's talk about this, shall we? The company is actually called Neuralink, which is developing a brain-computer interface, which involves implanting microchips in the brain. The goal is to help with neurological conditions, trying to enhance humans' cognitive abilities. Now, did you hear that? In the long term, enhance human cognitive abilities. Now, I know that it sounds like he's trying to help people, but in reality, this chip will be implanted in people's minds to basically mind control them. They're coming from an element of helping people to get funding, to get approval, to make it seem like it is necessary for the way we function in the world, but it is not. People are so gung-ho on believing everything this fool says. If you don't believe in his company, or rather companies, he's kind of like formed his own little cult. You are not part of his family if you do not believe in it. And he works his employees to the bone. I feel like there's been many instances where he makes them work round the clock, doesn't let them take time for anything, including death, illnesses, and he's a pretty tough boss. Now, when it comes to this chip, it is supposed to help paralyzed individuals, help with prosthetic limbs, and using their thoughts to maneuver things, which is and sounds pretty cool. But I don't necessarily think that the chip needs to be implanted in the brain. You are literally going in for brain surgery and allowing people to put something in the thing that controls your body. I think we can use brain waves without going in that deep. And I think it's been done before. It also looks like they're trying to use this as a treatment for Parkinson's, epilepsy, and spinal cord injuries. Again, just a curtain to get us to do this. He also actually wants to, envision a future where humans can directly communicate with AI, which I don't really understand why we need that. You know what I mean? He's like the guy from Jurassic Park when we're telling the guy from Jurassic Park not to clone these dinosaurs because it would not be good. And he's like, don't worry, I got this under control. No, you don't, bro. He feels that like AI can surpass human intelligence and help humans keep up. Red flag, red flag. He is also trying to instill fear in us. Now, AI can do a lot of great things, but AI can do a lot of bad things too, including fraud, pretending you're somebody, making videos show up, making it look like somebody was there when they weren't there. Like, this can go in so many bad ways. We will talk about AI and the scary things surrounding it at a later date. Just remind me. But in reality, what the outcome of what he's looking for are two different things. He wants to control people. So, for instance, those people who are on disability or mental health issues or have any issues where they cannot work for whatever reason, they want to implant this chip in their brain to control that person. You go to work, you do this, you do that. They want to sway them with certain politicians. They want to make them be an army, really, and fight against the resistance. So what he wants is to get as many people implanted as possible and then fight us who don't want to do this. He wants to make a full out fucking war. He also wants to have an army for when he goes up to Mars. He thinks that he's still going to live up there and he's going to live out the rest of his days with his buddies up there as well. And I'm telling you, I would not recommend anyone going in this direction. He's going to bring this chip to the market very soon, like within the next 2 years, talking about all the wonderful things that have happened and try to push people in that direction. And people are going to fall for it. And I'm afraid of what will happen. I wouldn't be surprised if there are certain people connected to his friends and family that he's already got implanted with this and are already working on the control elements. It's pretty fucked up. I also see that he wants to implant chips in people's brains so that they can steal, kill, and turn themselves in. Use them as pawns. F no. He wants to combine people and cyborgs, people and computers, and make them cyborgs. Have you ever seen Subservience? Very similar, except the robot is half human, half person. He wants to make teachers robotic. He wants to remove anything trans related, gay related, any of those things. He wants to go back to that narrative: man, woman, child, women serve man. The only people that may not have chips in their brains are the millionaire billionaires. It will be more intense than a computer. That chip will have a lot of power. It is more intense than our phones, and our phones are following and hear everything we say. The phones allow people to hear from our audio, from our cameras, and we don't necessarily pay attention to that too much. And it is so fucking scary to know that there are 20 people already with this chip in their brain. And he wants women to be incubators. That is literally all he wants for women. Now, when it comes to the transgender community, he already has issues with women in general. Trans people scare him. He doesn't know how to control that one. Now, when it comes to transgender people, because there are a lot of people that don't understand this, there are so many people that are doing research associated with his particular students, where they're making these theses on transgender people and why they shouldn't exist. He's trying to put a narrative out there that there are not enough cisgender people and that people need to start having babies, more babies, to outnumber the trans people. He also believes and will put out this thesis into the world that if we don't eliminate transgender people now, that they will take over the world. I kid you not, this is the narrative, and he's going to push the shit out of that soon. Elon Musk is probably one of the only people who can build a rocket ship to Mars, but still struggle to launch a normal human interaction. Now let's talk about his daughter. In 2022, Vivian, who was male assigned at birth, legally changed her name and gender, stating that she no longer wants to be related to her biological father. She even dropped the last name, taking her mother's last name. Now, I see that she approached him about this, and he did exactly what a lot of people do. Now, I get it. I am a mother of a transgender child. And when my kid came to me, I was a little uncomfortable. And not because she was trans, but because I was afraid that her life was going to be more difficult. People were going to try to hurt her. I was scared for her. And I didn't want that for her in her life. And then I adjusted my thinking and thought, this is who she wants to be. This is who she is. So who am I to stop her from being and wanting to be who she is? It can take some time to adjust, and that is perfectly fine. And your trans child will accept that. And it is scary, but you get over it. You get to the point of acceptance, and then you continue to move on. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. Even if you don't agree with transgender people existing, that's your prerogative. But if you want your children in your life, you have to unconditionally love them. Being trans does not make you evil. And I think that's where it's confusing. And most transgender people, not all, because there are trans people that are pedos and rapists and murderers, but there are also white cisgender men. There are many different people that come in many different shapes and sizes that are like that. Trans people, more than anything else, want to blend in, fit in. They are not going to try to hurt or harm your children in the washroom. And that narrative has been instilled in people's mind for so long. Meanwhile, we're not even focusing on the pedophiles of the world. Where are we on that? How come we can go and find immigrants, no problem, but we can't find pedophiles? Because they are being protected. Because of that narrative, I see Space Karen running to Felon 47 and saying that it was the school that made his daughter transgender. No, it was not. Remember that? Remember when 47 was going on and on and on about the schools, and they're going to school and then they're coming back? Like, none of that happened. That is exactly what Space Karen wanted to put out there. He also expressed that he was heartbroken over his child not having a relationship with him. You made that choice, bud, not your child. Your kid gave you that opportunity to accept them, and not only did you push against it, but you pushed against your child and decided, no, I'm not doing this. Will Space Karen and Vivian ever get to a better place? I don't think so. I think that Space Karen is going to continue to carry on having this attitude, and in my opinion, I am seeing that he's going to suggest for people to kill them. I feel like transgender deaths are going to be at an all-time high over the next few years, and I'm definitely scared. My trans community, please be careful. Just right now. It won't be forever, I promise. You guys will not have to deal with this alone, and we will keep fighting to fix this, I promise. Now let's move on to what's going on behind closed doors. It is really easy to see that Felon 47 signed his life away to all of his friends. People are definitely controlling the narrative this time. But they do things to stroke his ego, like, you the man, you're the big shot. And the thing that triggers him more than anything else is people telling him that Space Karen is running the show. It triggers him so much. So he's already pissed off at Space Karen. But it actually makes Space Karen really happy. Now, the two of them have had moments of enjoying each other's company and moments of hating each other. As of right now, I think Felon 47 is just dealing with him at the moment, but he wants him gone as soon as possible. I feel like Karen just continuously keeps going and saying, I got to do this, that, and the other. We got to do this, that, and the other. But in reality, he's totally out of control, and eventually Space Karen and Felon 47 are going to have like a full-on war. I'm seeing that Space Karen is going to get kicked out of the White House. I believe that it'll be more like government related. I don't think Felon 47 is going to be the one to actually do this part, but they're going to say, like, look, if we want to be able to continue to keep doing things, you got to go, bud. I'm also seeing that Felon 47's cabinet members are pissed too. And I think that Space Karen actually has dirt on each and every single one of them. And thus the reason maybe things aren't necessarily coming up. But there is a lot of animosity against him from everybody on the administration of Felon 47. Now, why did Space Karen access the Treasury Department central payment? He's got a lot of enemies. He's been stiffed before, and he's also trying to find more money. I know he's claiming to help cut costs back. Nothing to do with that. He just wants to gain power and control and know everything and have access to everything. Now, when it comes to his little team, if I'm going to be honest, once they got in there, they were able to like manipulate the software. I see that they have copies of everything that they accessed. He's got hackers to be able to go in there and can silently go in there without any bells going off. I know that they have a block up, but I think this block is not helpful. He has literally everything he needs now. He's also one of the people associated with the Eye, but I can't talk about this over here. We'll talk about that on the exclusive side. The two will keep having very, very public fights, and we will be watching all of that. It's gonna get pretty wild. So I would say all of this will start happening in the next couple of months. I eventually feel like all of Space Karen's access will be shut down by Felon 47, and I think Felon 47 will go to possibly X to say some things, but I don't know. I feel like he might be blocked. Something might happen there. He may end up using another platform to share his thoughts on Space Karen. People keep asking, is anything going to happen to him? Like, is he going to go to jail? I don't feel like he is, but I feel like he may eventually be deported somewhere. But I'm also not thinking it's going to be South Africa. Maybe it's Canada. Ew. Who wants that? I do, however, feel like he'll have a lot of civil lawsuits against him, and people will be collecting the cash, and no one's going to want to work with him. I also believe that NASA, there's going to be some connections to NASA cutting him off. Like, there's going to be a lot. Dude's going to be pretty low down on the scale. Yeah, he has lots and lots of money to suffice, but he's not going to get his dreams and goals like he thinks he is. Oh, and here's another thing. You know how we had the submarine kind of vanish and implode? I feel like there's going to be something like that happens in the sky. Also, a rocket that will implode, which will have some of his billionaire friends in it. That's going to take a couple of years before it happens, but it's going to be like a test run, and it's going to be all over the news. It's going to be wild. I also feel like the aliens may eventually get their hands on Space Karen, and no, not in the way that he's hoping for. I think they're curious because they feel like he has some secrets, but in reality, he doesn't know nothing. His brain is full of thoughts about himself. It is really hard to channel anything when it comes to this man because all he thinks about is himself. I think he thinks he's going to be like the first bionic man. Like, he thinks that he's going to be an Iron Man and people are going to just obey him. It's going to be weird. He thinks that once he gets to the elderly age, that he's going to be able to somehow save his brain and carry on as a robot. Luckily for us, this chip in the brain will eventually become free. But at first, it's only going to be for his people. And we're going to see all of this unfold. And it's going to be pretty intense, scary, but it will not get to the place where they think it will. But yeah, a lot of you guys keep asking me so many questions. I'm trying to answer as many as I can. If you do have any questions in relation to Space Karen, please drop them in the comments and I will answer them on another video. I'm also going to be doing like prediction videos on celebrities, who's on our side, who isn't on our side, but I'm going to do that also on the exclusive side. But this is far from over because there's a lot more to talk about. This was just the tip of the iceberg. But I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure to stay freaked out.